The propaganda.
And Kim Jong-un. Millions to starve.
North Korea.
And threatened to destroy the United States.
Fire and fury.
The North Koreans.
His regime, prison camps.
North Korea.
Kim Jong-un's human rights.
Okay, so these are my thoughts on North Korea. Firstly, it has to be said that any disrespect towards the Kim dynasty, which is Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il and the current leader Kim Jong-un, can result in sanctions that are far harsher than criminal offences. The Labour camps will summon if any display of ridicule is directed to the glorious leaders. And it is the Kim dynasty who are so omniscient and permanently present in the Hermit Kingdom. They're considered to be almost godlike. They utterly monopolise the country, and in fact badges featuring the leaders are worn on the left lapel of North Korean citizens. They are in fact mandatory to wear. And so even in innocuous non-political events and gatherings, these places tend to chronicle the dynasty. So to put it into a context for you, I attended a flower show which was in full blossom in Pyongyang. The colours were lucid, but the displays exhibited images of the Kims. In fact, local North Koreans queued for photographs in front of a central display featuring a smiling Kim Il-sung. And it goes further than this, as Monty Python star Michael Palin detailed in his documentary on the DPRK. Religion is frowned upon in the Hermit Kingdom, so if you're found in possession of a Bible, for instance, in fact any religious scripture, a punishment will apply. And again, this could be punishment that is worse than the sort of regular criminal misdemeanours that happen in other countries. The pressure and the power of the regime is incredibly intense. The glorious leaders tend to seep into every aspect of life, so suspicion becomes normal. To give an example, it's rumoured that the Pyongyang Metro employs actors as passengers to give an illusion of the size and the extent of the network. Now these rumours are likely to be false, but the illusion of the entire country is what sustains such bizarre theories. Something else that struck me was the fact that North Korea has very little electricity. So for instance, from my Pyongyang hotel room, I was awarded a magnificent view of the city, but at night of course it was shrouded in darkness. Although the country has little electricity, it always seems to find enough voltage to power the underlit propaganda posters of the Kims. In fact, this is the only light source that is often visible from my hotel room. Merchandise such as luxury goods, for instance, are completely disqualified from the country, so you will not see any sports cars. In fact, it's illegal to own a car in North Korea unless you're a member of the Communist Party or the elite. And you won't see any expensive footwear like Nike trainers or jewellery like Tiffany, for instance. Everything and everybody has an appearance of sort of sameness and uniformity. Kim Jong-un is the exception, of course. His lavish and opulent lifestyle is well documented. So fashion choices are aligned to North Korean socialist dogma, and these can be decoded in three ranges. You have military uniform for soldiers, and then you have suits, shirts, dresses for the Pyongyang elite, and thirdly the sort of dull, unexciting clothing for rural inhabitants. It's also alleged that DPRK citizens have been limited to a total of 15 hairstyles from which to choose. Now the policy applies to both men and women, although curiously the available samples do not include Kim Jong-un's iconic haircut. Although Kim Jong-un leads this extravagant lifestyle, malnutrition still exists in his country, even though the 1994 famine that gripped North Korea has luckily been eradicated. So again, to put it into a context, in the countryside I saw a child who looked around 9 years old. He walked past our tour group carrying 2 very heavy containers of water. His clothes were rags, he was clearly malnourished. But surprisingly, our guides attempted to funnel our attention away from him. It's almost like he should not have been seen by us outsiders. So investment is allocated instead to weapons programs. It does not feed the hungry and the emaciated. So to put into a context, recently North Korea spent an estimated $4 billion US, which is about 23% of its GDP, on military equipment. Curiously, home ownership is illegal in the DPRK. While theoretically it's permissible to swap homes, one cannot purchase a property. Now, I was informed by North Koreans that properties were allocated by local government offices. So rules surrounding property ownership have been relaxed recently, so a property market of some sort does now exist. Private enterprise and branding are forbidden in the DPRK. Streets and public spaces are devoid of any advertising. Only the murals and statues of the leaders populate the public spaces. Curiously, this also relates to goods that are actually manufactured and created and crafted in North Korea, and this includes beer. So on a trip to a bar one evening, I was confronted with 6 varieties of North Korean lager. The options were number 1, number 2, 3, number 4, number 5, or indeed number 6. Not one of the beers had a distinctive name or brand. And as a tourist, it almost feels like contact with locals is completely prohibited. Maybe with the exception of a photograph or a courteous hello in the street. Any endeavour to engage further with local people would be promptly blocked by our guides. For example, in the bar I mentioned above, I made an attempt to interact with a group of Koreans who were merely sitting and drinking and dining in the venue. Swiftly, this attempt was blocked, and they were instructed to move to another table, the other side of the bar. When I switched on my television in my Pyongyang hotel room, it struck me that North Korean television is utterly controlled. It's controlled by the Korean Central Broadcasting Committee, and obviously programme is overseen by the propaganda department and is therefore completely and very strictly regulated. But perhaps the most curious and officious and indeed intimidating feature of North Korea, particularly as a tourist, but probably also as a local as well, is the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, which is more commonly known as the Pyongyang Mausoleum. So I'd like to read a brief extract from my blog, passportsandpolitics.com. The link to the article can be found in the description below. Anyway, this is my personal experience of the mausoleum. There's some soft commotion near the entrance of the corridor that leads to the mausoleum. As we file through, we're confronted by a cloakroom where we're stripped of our possessions. Any bags, wallets, cameras, phones, scarves, gloves, hats, coins, tissues, etc. are taken from us. Our pockets are emptied of everything. The only permissible possessions are the clothes we are wearing. Although exposed to a thorough security examination, we weren't subjected to compulsory photographing and iris scanning as the North Korean people were. It's expected of each North Korean citizen to visit the mausoleum at least once in their lifetime. By gathering data from such intrusive surveillance, it may induce citizens to visit. After all, who wants to be on the list of citizens yet to pay homage? After negotiating an airport-style metal detector, it's time for an automated shoe cleaning device to eliminate any grime and stains from our footwear. Finally, we are subjected to a dust removing machine which aptly administers a jet of powerful air to eradicate dust contamination from our clothing. We are finally ready for the journey to the mausoleum. Like farmyard animals, we file onto a travelator. Eyes straight ahead, arms by our sides, a gloomy expression on each face, indistinct and indeterminate from the next. Any expression other than mourning for the leaders is suppressed and aptly hidden. An adjacent travelator filing visitors in the reverse direction away from the mausoleum carries hundreds of North Korean soldiers. Like a mirror of our own glumness, the soldiers and a small handful of North Korean civilians display sorrow for the leaders. A few of the soldiers stare at us impassively. They appear almost curious. Why are we here, and why are we interested in this sacred mausoleum? More than 15 minutes have passed and the end of the travelator is imminent. The magnificent orchestral music that accompanied the journey is still audible. It never seems to reach crescendo. How could it? Crescendo signifies an endpoint, an apex, a conclusion. The leaders are always with us, a permanent, omniscient reminder of their glory. Their philosophy, their influence, love of nation, esteem of people, their guidance and inspiration are a perpetual feature of North Korean life. Surely music should reflect this. So too do the enlarged gold-framed photographs arranged along the walls. Each depicts Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il as an arbiter of industry, world affairs, importance and humility. These are gods of the people. A few weeks earlier, I glimpsed the cold body of Chairman Mao in Beijing, was standing here in line dressed in funeral attire, hands placed at my sides waiting to lower my upper torso in a respectful bow. I reflected on the suffering inflicted by this tyrant. In China there is no compulsion to bow. A sensation of curiosity is palpable in the atmosphere. Chinese people and tourists alike inquisitive to observe Mao's lifeless corpse. Kim Il-sung is a contrasting representation. He embodies a dynasty still clutching onto its unshakable power. The source of this authority lies before me as I am compelled to bow once at the side of the glass sarcophagus, once again at the foot end of the casket, and then finally at the other side. Weeping North Korean women are audible, hysterical in fact in their endeavour to display emotion. Again a direct contrast to the almost inaudible crying in Mao's mausoleum. The experience is reminiscent of theatre, an entire stage concocted and fictitious. The difficulty of many North Korean citizens to express legitimate sorrow is conspicuous. It's evocative of a poorly performed amateur theatre group, with tears flowing from eyes and rolling down ashen cheeks. and then finally ending their journey in a tiny puddle on the marble floor. They appear contrived and artificial. The theatrical landscape of the entire country can be observed within this venue. Ludicrous volumes of money wasted, the falseness of love, the deception of emotion, the obligation of dress code, the godlike worship of the dead. Alas, the power mechanism of the Kim dynasty is also observable, a state that's been crafted and indeed fashioned on a cult of personality.